Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today I am bringing you my Overwatch League 2020 July North America Power Rankings, or the post-Summer Showdown Power Rankings. This is the second of my Power Rankings. The Asia one went up on Wednesday, so I will link to that in the description as well as in the cards if you want to see that. But today, as I said, breaking down North America, 13 teams North America. That means I got to keep this video somewhat brief, so my thoughts on each team I'm going to try to keep it somewhat brief, so I may not get too into detail about why I have teams where I have them. I'll try to be as concise as possible, give you sound enough reasoning, but if you have any questions, comments, anything like that, leave them in the comments down below as always. One thing of note is, of course, these are my rankings, these are my opinions. I'm sure many of you will have different thoughts than me on this whole thing. But I assure you that I will read your comments and I will look at them lovingly. And we'll have a nice discussion in the comments if you have any thoughts of your own. So, yeah, with that out of the way, let's move on. Let's get to the start of this Power Rankings with number 13. At number 13, I have the Boston Uprising. The Uprising team, which in May had started to look like they were on the up. They had their win over the Gladiators. They had the close series against the Paris Eternal. They come back at the start of the Summer Showdown qualifiers and have another close series against the Paris Eternal. Everyone thought the Uprising were looking like they were on the rise, and they have done nothing since then but lose, and lose in embarrassing fashion. And the thing that was the real killer for this Uprising team was their loss to the Washington Justice in the qualification match for the Summer Showdown. It wasn't a close match. The Justice won pretty handily. The Uprising made a lot of mistakes in that match that really hurt them. So I think it's clear that the Uprising are not really competitors right now. They're not really big level contenders. They have struggled a lot. They have a lot of needs. They need more DPS players. They need, I think, some improvements at the main support position. They're too small of a roster. Their focus is on the wrong things. Their focuses are in the wrong areas. I have a lot of questions and concerns with this Uprising team. I don't really see them beating anybody right now. If they can't beat the Justice, who can they beat? I have them here at 13. At 12, I have a maybe controversial or interesting pick, but I have the Washington Justice. Yes, the Washington Justice have won 2 of their last 3 matches. The qualification match against Boston and the tournament match against the LA Gladiators. But I still don't think that the Justice are in a position to win. What I noticed from this past tournament was that there is a ton of Genji play, right? Everybody noticed that. And the Justice, when they weren't playing Genji, didn't look that good. A lot of teams, I think, benefited from Genji being very strong because they had a player who was really good at Genji, and they played teams who maybe were not as good at Genji. I think that's exactly what happened with the Justice. I'm not going to have a huge reactionary ranking where I say the Justice beat the Gladiators and they beat the Uprising. They need to be really high because they looked good on one hero and they've looked good in one meta ever since this new roster was put together. I don't think that's the way to do these rankings. I want to see more consistency out of this team when they're not playing Genji. Tuba's Genji is great. There's no denying that. He looked good against San Francisco. He looked good against the Gladiators. He looked good against the Gladiators when they played the final week of qualifying matches. He looked amazing against Boston. This is a team who clearly has talented players, especially on specific heroes, but I want to see more success from this team in different metas when Genji is not viable. I think it's very likely that Genji won't be in the hero pool when the season starts back up next week. So I want to see what the Justice look like then, and only then would I consider moving them higher on this ranking. I think they look good. I think they've improved significantly, but I need to see them look good outside of a Genji meta before I'm ready to put them any higher. At number 11, I have the Vancouver Titans. Now, this is a team that I 100% think is capable of being higher on this list. Maybe I'm just a little too blinded and clouded by some of these teams ahead of them and by some of their past successes and the way they've looked throughout the whole season to put them below Vancouver. I think Vancouver's looked way better. They've looked much improved. I think KSA is a really good player. I think Shockwave is a really good player. I think Dalton's a really good player. I have some questions surrounding their support line. I think Shredlock has been solid as well. It's really just their support line that I have some questions about. I think Rolf's been fine. I think Hargar's been fine, but I think that's where they would need the most improvement. I also think they need a little more in their flex DPS department. Shockwave is not really a flex DPS player. He's just a little more flexible than what Suna is, which is why he plays over Suna, and he's also a really talented player. And the Titans, so like I said, I think they've improved a lot. I think they look a lot better, but I don't think they're quite at the level yet where they're really, really, really dominant and they're going to be better than these other teams in North America. North America's a lot of really good teams that I think the Titans can beat, but I think they have to really, really, really work hard to get to that level where they can consistently beat teams like Atlanta, teams like the Gladiators, teams like the Fuel, even though they did beat the Fuel. The Fuel weren't playing at their peak at that time. So I think there's a lot of work that the Titans need to do before I think they're going to hit the highest level they can, that, you know, their peak. But I think they're getting there very, very, very quickly, much quicker than I expected them to. And I think this is a team who, when they're actually able to be together in one place and not playing from assorted pings around the world, they will be a much better team. I think they'll probably make some moves to bolster this team in the offseason. For right now, I have them at 11, but I think they are better than where I would have put them 2-3 weeks ago. I do think they've improved a lot. Number 10 is the dip that everybody's been waiting for, waiting to see how low they would drop. Here they are, number 10. It is the LA Gladiators. What a disappointing month for the LA Gladiators. This is a Gladiators team who barely beat the Justice when they played them at the end of the Summer Showdown qualifiers, and then lose to the Justice in the Summer Showdown itself. The Gladiators have looked really bad. You know, they had that win against Atlanta, which was, I guess, a pretty good win, where they were running really weird compositions with LH Cloudy. I don't know what the Gladiators are doing. I understand that they're trying to incorporate Kevster into this roster, but it just seems to me like this is a team that doesn't know what they're doing. They don't really have an identity, or their identity is just doing dumb stuff and doing weird, you know, gadget compositions, weird, like, just pulling random things out of their hat, rushing LH Cloudy into the back line. It's really weird. I don't understand what this team is doing. They haven't looked good in a while. I was not impressed by their performance before the Summer Showdown. I was really not impressed by their performance in the Summer Showdown. I don't know what is going on with this Gladiators team. Not consistent play out of OG. The lack of consistency at times from their support line. I don't think the support line is necessarily a problem, but I think there are times when the support line does not look all that great. It's a weird team. I don't know what's going on with them. It's hard to really pin where they are, but a loss to the Justice and a win over the Justice that really didn't give me any hope has me knocking this team down to 10. I need to see more out of them. I know they have the potential to be a better team. They haven't shown me much of that yet this season. I have them here at the 10 spot. At number 9, I have the Toronto Defiant. Much like the Washington Justice, the Toronto Defiant had a very good tournament on the back of the Genji play, this time from Agilities. I think the Toronto Defiant are a team that are better than where they have been record-wise, but I think the problem is that they're not good enough to win those 50-50 matches against teams like, you know, the Dallas Fuel, the Houston Outlaws, the Atlanta Reign. They lose those matches where maybe they should have the ability to win, but they fall flat. Their coordination hasn't always been the best. The addition of Numlocked has made this team way better. I think that Agilities getting to play Genji made this team way better. But once again, they looked best in a Genji meta. Genji will probably be banned for the next 2 weeks of play. I need to see more out of this Toronto Defiant team than just what they did in this tournament. They looked very good. They made the semifinals. They got an additional win from the tournament. That's a huge accomplishment for a team who are relatively low in the standings, have been struggling all season. They get a free win. It's not really a free win. They had to compete for it, but they managed to get a win. They got the thing that helps them make that postseason push potentially. I think they're a team who are dangerous against those mid-table teams. They could definitely beat some of those lower-level mid-table teams, but I don't see them really having any success against your Fusions, your Shocks, your Eternals. I just think it's too difficult for this team to win matches like that. I think they have a lot of potential. I think that they have a couple things that they have to work on. I think that they've lacked coordination for a little bit. They've lacked an identity. I think they're kind of starting to develop that a little more now. I think they could have a really good late season push that could really help them. They still have the ability to have a positive record, especially with that additional win. It's a little bit easier for them now. You know, they can go 500, go 11-11. They can go 12-10 because of the additional win. There's a lot of things they can do, but they have to have a really good second half or late part of the season, and I don't really see that happening. They're a solid team. They've looked much improved as of late, but I still have them here at 9 because I need to see more out of them, and I think that there's still a lot of room for this team to grow. At number 8, I have the Dallas Fuel. Difficult team to place. We saw them lose to the Paris Eternal in the Summer Showdown, so the team that eventually would go on to win the whole thing. So it's a little difficult to say how good or bad this team was when you lose to the team that wins the whole thing. But they didn't look bad when they played against Paris. They actually looked decent. They won a map off of them. It was a pretty good performance out of the Fuel. With Decay in the lineup again, they look way, way, way better. Yes, they lost the Titans without him, but with Decay in the lineup, you have to consider this team as a serious threat to anybody on a good day. I don't think they're good enough to consistently beat a team like the Shock or the Fusion or the Eternal, or even a team like the Valiant or the Mayhem. But we saw them completely demolish the Toronto Defiant, even without Decay in the lineup a few weeks ago. They did that with Onigod in the lineup. This is not a bad team. This is a team who, when they're playing at their best, are some of the best teams in the league, or one of the best teams in the league. And when they're at their average, they're an average team. They have a lot of potential. They haven't fully realized that potential. I think there's a number of things that probably need to change for this team. I don't know what necessarily is going wrong for them. It seems like everything is on the back of Decay. I think Gamsu and Note may be players who need a little bit more support, and maybe some changes need to be made there. They're an interesting team. I think they are a very solid team, but I don't think they are necessarily a great team. I think they're a good team, a solid team, but they still have a few things that are holding them back from being a contender team and from getting into the level of what I would call the solid top level or mid-top level teams in North America. At number 7 is the middle of the pack, the very middle team, the gatekeeper team that separates the bottom from the top. It is the Atlanta Reign. Probably the most disappointing team of the Overwatch League this season. They have not performed at the level that we expected them to. They have fallen flat pretty much every match they've ever played. Especially recently, when they play against good teams, they struggle. A loss to the Defiant in the Summer Showdown really kind of cemented that. They've struggled a lot. They haven't looked solid in a lot of matches. Where I think they've looked best when they play the bad teams. But like recently, I haven't been super impressed with their play. Baby Bay may be leaving this team. He said something about the fact that this past tournament may be his last tournament. So I don't really know what that fully means, but to me it just means that there is a chance that he is leaving, maybe to go play Valorant. Maybe he's just, the upcoming meta that they predict isn't going to be one where Baby Bay is super prominent. I don't know. It's difficult to say for sure, but the Reign, there's a lot of things that work well for this team. I think their tank line has been good. I think their damage dealers are usually pretty good. They just seem to lack the coordination and solid team play that I think we see from a lot of other top teams, and I think that's really what's holding them back. I don't really know why they are struggling as much as they are. They're a disappointing team, but I have them here at 7 for really their pretty lackluster performances they've put up so far this season. At number 6, I have the Houston Outlaws. What a recent turn of events for this Outlaws team. They've looked pretty good recently. They had a win over the Mayhem in the Summer Showdown. They had a very close series with the Mayhem before the Summer Showdown fully kicked off. I think the Outlaws have actually been relatively impressive. A few weeks ago, the week before the Summer Showdown, I tweeted out that I thought the Outlaws were a team that were potentially one of the top 5 teams in the Overwatch League in North America, at least, and I needed to see more from them in terms of their performances in the Summer Showdown. But they had their win over the Gladiators, a win over the Mayhem in the tournament. I think they've looked consistently better as the season has progressed, especially throughout May and June. I think Hydration has looked very solid on that main tank role. This is a really impressive look for the Outlaws. I think this is the best they've looked all season. They're on a hot streak right now. Obviously, yes, they lost to Fusion in the tournament, and, that's a little bit of something to look at and go, they didn't win, but you beat a team who is, by all accounts, better than you, and you beat a team that is, by all accounts, better than you, and you do it pretty convincingly. It was a really good look from this Outlaws team this past month, and I think that they really are on the rise. I think Dante has played very well. Linkser is playing, I think, up to form. We're seeing Meko back up in top form. I think Jexa and Repel are playing really well together. And as I said before, Hydration has looked pretty solid. So I think that this is an Outlaws team that is getting better and better and better by the week. I don't know if they're good enough to, say, make a playoff push. They're still behind a number of teams in the rankings. But I feel pretty good with this team when they go up against other teams. And I've seen pretty good looks from them in multiple metas. If they're playing the Genji, if they're playing the Tracer, with Ashe in the pool, whatever it is that they want to run, I feel like they've looked pretty good on a number of different heroes and a number of different metas. So I think that this is a team who they're a team to look at. They can beat anybody, I think, if they're at their best. But against some of these teams like the Shock, the Fusion, the Eternal, they're going to struggle. But against any other team in North America, I think that they really do have a chance to beat anybody. At number 5, I have the Florida Mayhem, an interesting team. The 5 and 4 spot were very difficult for me to choose and decide who to put here, but I ultimately decided to put the Mayhem here at 5. They've looked good this season. They've looked way better this season. In June, they looked worse than what they did in May. In May, they looked very, very good. Of course, they looked super dominant. They looked super on top of the world. Made the May Melee Finals. Very good series against the Shock. June, struggled against the Valiant. Struggled against the Outlaws twice. Didn't look as convincing as they did in the past. And I think a lot of that comes down to a number of changes. Tracer is where they look the best. They don't look as good on Genji. They're not necessarily bad on Genji, but they don't look as good when they're playing the Genji. And I think teams have figured them out a little more. Baptiste has been huge in this meta recently. Baptiste Brig, in theory, is something they should be really good at because Gangnam Jin is a good Baptiste. Chris is a good Brig. But I just feel like they've fallen a little flat. I think we're just kind of seeing where their peak really is. They're a top 5 team in North America. That's really what they are. And that's a solid thing for a team like this to be. They found metas that really worked for them when they're running Tracer. I think they're improving a lot, but I don't think they're a perfect team by any means. They're way better than they were last season, and of course in 2018. I think that this is a team who are only going to get better from here on out. Realistically, I think that they're going to make changes to bolster their roster in the offseason. But this season, I think they are a team who are genuine contenders and threats to potentially make the postseason and go for a decently big run. But right now, I would say that there are still a number of hurdles this team has to pass before they are truly one of the Goliaths in North America. At number 4, I have the LA Valiant. Now, this was where I was kind of split between the Valiant and the Mayhem, who I would put higher. I ultimately decided to put the Valiant higher for a number of reasons. One, their performance against the Toronto Defiant was when the Defiant were at their best meta possible, and the Valiant weren't playing with their best roster. It was a very difficult week for them. They had a down week because of it. I think that they are still better than what their performance in the Summer Showdown revealed. They didn't have Lastro or Dreamer playing, so they were in a bit of an off position. So I feel like with that in mind, the Valiant are better than what we saw from them. They beat the Mayhem earlier this month. They struggled against the Eternal, which was something I didn't expect. I thought the Eternal, were a little but the Eternal had one of the best metas possible for them, so they managed to find the win against the Valiant. I still think the Valiant are a good team. They didn't look great in the Genji meta. KSF's Genji was not the greatest in the world, but it wasn't awful. And like I said, very difficult to judge their performance on the Summer Showdown on the fact that they didn't have their full strength roster. I still think KSP and Shax are one of, if not the best DPS duos in the league right now. Definitely the best Western DPS duo in the league. I think the Valiant have a lot of potential. They have a really good coaching staff. They play well together as a team. They understand the game at a high level. So even if they aren't the most talented team, I think they're one of the best coordinated teams and one of the best performing teams as a group. But that is why I have them here at number 4. At number 3, I have the North America Summer Showdown champions, the Paris Eternal. And I know, a lot of people are going to say they just won the tournament. How are you going to put them at 3? And I'm going to give you the same answer that I've given for a number of other teams. We have seen the Paris Eternal excel in a number of metas, but we've seen them excel particularly well in the Genji meta. That is when this team has looked the best. There was not really another time, other than when they beat the Fusion back in March, when I thought the Eternal looked like they were arguably the best team in North America. So it's a little difficult to say for sure who the best team is and who the worst team is. But, you know, I think when you look at the Eternal, they're a very strong team. They've looked good in a number of different metas. They have a really talented rookie roster. You know, other than Ben Best, No Smite, Soon, and Nico, this is a team entirely made up of rookies. And the majority of the roster that played during the Summer Showdown was all rookies, with the exception of their main tank. You know, Soon and Nico were subbed in a couple times, but for the most part, it was 5 rookies and a veteran main tank player, whether that be No Smite or Ben Best. I think they have looked much improved. I have been way too hard on Ben Best and No Smite this season. They have been having a spectacular season. Their showdown was really, really good. I think this is a team who are finally realizing their peak and their potential, and I think they're going to be a consistently good team. Getting 3 wins from the Summer Showdown really helps this team get a good seeding and a good position in the league as a whole, in the league standings as a whole. This is a really dangerous Eternal team who realistically can beat anybody, because we saw them beat both the Fusion and the Shock in the Summer Showdown finals. This is a team I would not want to face at all. I think they are one of the top teams right now, and I think that they're only going to get better from here. I still want to see a little more consistency out of them, especially in some of these other metas when Sparkle isn't playing. They looked good on the maps, you know, where Sparkle didn't play on Control in the Summer Showdown, but I want to see a little more consistency when he's not playing and when he can't play his best heroes. But with XC back in the lineup, this team at full strength, they look like one of the best teams in the entire league. At number 2, I have the runners-up for the Summer Showdown, the Philadelphia Fusion. Very good series for them, very good tournament for them, a very good series for them in particular against Paris. They fall just flat after your EQO's heroics on Rialto. EQO almost helped this team and almost carried this team pretty much to a Summer Showdown victory, but the Paris Eternal were just a little bit too much. But I think this is a proof, or this tournament was proof that the Fusion are a dominant team. They're still a very good team. They had a dominant win over the Outlaws. They had a dominant win over the Defiant, and they almost beat the Paris Eternal in the championship. So I'm ready to say that yes, the Fusion are the second best team. I know there were some doubts. There were some people who said they might not be the second best team. They are the second best team in North America. I think that if they had played the Shock in the finals, it would have been much different than if they played, or than when they played back in the last week of the Summer Showdown qualifiers. I think the Fusion really do look good. Fury has been playing up to form recently. Carpe and EQO, when they were playing together, looked like old school Carpe and EQO. I think Alarm and Funny Astro and even Boombox have looked very good for the support line. And Sato has still been putting up consistent performances this season. So I really, really, really like what this Fusion team has done. I think they have looked much better recently. I think that after that loss to the Fusion, or to the Shock, people were kind of like, Fusion, they're washed, they're not that good. I think that their Summer Showdown performance dispelled all of those doubts. The Fusion are legit. They're a good team. They're a strong team. They're a solid team. There is no doubt in my mind that this Fusion team is the second best team in North America and is arguably the second or third best team in all of the Overwatch League. Finally, at number 1, I have the good old San Francisco Shock. Yes, they lost in the semifinals of the Summer Showdown, but it's not like they got blown out. They forced compositions against the Paris Eternal that were not very good. This Shock team doesn't have a really good Genji player. and they still almost won against a team who was running the best comp better than anybody else. This Shock team are still incredible. They're still insane. Any ranking that puts them at number 3 or number 2 is just wrong. This is a team who ran off-meta compositions and was still better than almost everybody else. Running off-meta. Yes, they need another flex DPS player. Rascal's a great player at what he can play, and he can play a lot of things, but Genji is clearly not in his wheelhouse. I think there is a certain NYXL Genji playing flex support or flex DPS, not flex support, flex DPS, who would maybe be a good addition to this team if they wanted to have a solid Genji player, but that's really their only weakness. They can't play Genji. And even then, I think that over time, Rascal can probably pick up Genji and be very good at Genji, but they would need some time to really do that. They said something about them having open tryouts for players, so it looks to me like they're looking potentially for a DPS player. Maybe they're looking for players at all different roles, but the Shock team is still really good. They're still the best coordinated team in the league. They still put up better performances against every other team than any other team in the region. They've only lost 3 games this season, right? Including their Summer Showdown loss. Like 3 games. That's it. They're still very, very good. They've lost fewer games than any other team in the league. Don't write off this team just because of one loss in the Summer Showdown semifinals. The Shock are still the kings of North America. That is everything for my North America power rankings. Let me know your thoughts on my rankings, or leave your own rankings in the comments down below. I'd love to have a discussion with all of you about it. But that is everything I have for you today. These rankings were pretty difficult, and I hope that at least part of them made you gasp or made you go, I think this man is a genius. Because that's really what I want with these rankings. But yeah, that's all I have for you today. If you enjoyed, consider liking and subscribing for more content like this in the future. Once again, comment down below your thoughts on anything I talked about today. And I hope you're all staying safe and staying healthy. And I hope you're all enjoying this week off from the Overwatch League to do something and work on something fun, because that's really what matters. But yes, that's all. Thank you once again. And until next time, bye-bye.